major invasion of privacy. She then sends me another text that says, your things will be on the front porch when you get here. You need to find somewhere else to stay. It's February in Canada,
it's like
so
a foot and a half of snow. Foot and
a half of snow, and anything absolutely vile you could say to someone, she said to me. They basically told me that they weren't comfortable with a man that they'd never met being in their house with 2 young girls.
They pulled me aside and like started questioning me, pulled me into the back room and like holding pretty much.
Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Hillary, and today's video is going to be part 2, I think, episode number 2 of my Australia series. If you have not already seen part 1, go ahead and click up here to watch that first. If you didn't know, was an au pair twice in both Australia and Canada. Today's video is going to be all about Canada. The first video was kind of just going through my memory box. I talked a little bit about everywhere I traveled, mostly Australia. But today's video is going to be a story time. It's going to be very interesting. I was kicked out of my host parents' house. My then boyfriend, now husband, got stopped at the border. It was a doozy. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring in my special guest, my husband, and we will jump into this story time. If you have not already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe down below for more content. Au pair videos will be out every Monday. Let's get into the video. Okay, so to start, when I was living in Australia, it's no secret, we were broken up, we got back together, we're married. Anyways, when I was living there, I decided I wasn't gonna come back to the US, I was just gonna travel forever. So I applied to become an au pair in Canada. Turns out, come home, get back together, didn't wanna go, but I'd already made a commitment. It was only 3 months instead of 6. So I was like, whatever, I'll go. I'll be home soon. It's tests, see if we're really meant to be. If we survive this, we'll be good. So, make plans, family's super sweet, and I go to Canada. And one thing I was thinking about the other day was when I first got there and told her that me and my boyfriend got back together, the host mom made like a weird face about it. And she was like, oh, we were really excited to have someone who didn't have any other commitments, hoping that they would stay on longer. Should have been a clue then, but didn't ring in anything. It was what it was. So I lived with them. Everything was fairly okay. They were very weird and they were very like overprotective of their children. And being a mom, I mean, I understand some things now being a mom that I obviously didn't understand when I was au pairing, but having done the same job in Australia for 6 months prior with an amazing family, I kind of went into it with expectations a little bit higher than I should have. These people, I was their first au pair, they had no idea what was going on, and the mom basically thought her kids did no wrong. So when I told her that her daughter wasn't as perfect as she thought, it didn't sit well with her. And so another instance before we jump into the real fun part of the story was when I signed my contract, which whatever, we just agreed on it, it wasn't a physical contract. But when I agreed to go was basic household chores that related to the kids or myself. So like helping out with laundry, putting some dishes away after dinner, cleaning up the kids' toys, all of that like basic stuff. You live with someone, you help pick up those things. That was no issue. But on my off days, I was free to lay in bed all day long if that's what I wanted to do. And they were aware, these were our expectations. And there was one Saturday where I literally spent the whole day in my room. I was just like, didn't have anywhere to go, didn't have any friends to go meet. And it was like super snowy. I mean, I was there in January. So I didn't want to walk to go anywhere on a bus to go travel. So I was just in my room talking to Zach on Facebook, you know, just chilling, having a chill day after working the last 5. And later, like the next day, the host mom asked me like why I was in my room the whole day and why I didn't come out to see them. And I was like, oh, you know, I just like, you know, just having a day to myself. And apparently it was an issue that I didn't get out of bed and go and help clean the bathroom. Apparently that was my chore that I was never told was my chore, and it was this massive ordeal. And I kind of like immediately got this like weird vibe, like it kind of turned the whole situation around. and it was really strange. And so that's kind of what started my like, don't know how I feel about this any longer. And if the camera's shaking, it's because you're on the cat tree and the cats are fighting.
Cleo, stop.
Anyways, and so that's kind of what started my like, don't really think this is a good fit. But I had made a commitment, so I was gonna stick it out. But because I deal with some anxiety and stuff like that, I kind of like was journaling different things, written some things down where I was like, I just want to leave. I had told Zach I just didn't want to be there any longer. And I had like, you know, like these kind of notes, these kind of journal entries, all of that kind of stuff in my laptop, in my closet, in my suitcase. Or in my suitcase, in my closet. So it wasn't like free reign for someone to go and read. It was very much my information, which will make sense in a second. So in February, mind you, I went there the first week in January, and then right after Valentine's Day was when Zach came. So I had made an agreement with them that for what, weeks before, we bought your tickets several weeks in advance. Yeah. I'd had a conversation that Zach was gonna come up and we were gonna go spend the weekend in Niagara Falls, and then I was gonna come back and continue working through the end of March, which was my agreement with them to begin with. And they were like, yeah, sure, no problem, no issues. Well, about the day before, I think it was literally the day before Zach was supposed to come, they basically told me that they weren't comfortable with a man that they'd never met being in their house with 2 young girls. Mind you, this was the guy I had been with since we were 18 in high school, so it wasn't like he was a complete random stranger. But anyways, so they weren't comfortable with that. So what they were gonna do was ship the girls off to grandma's, and Zach and I could stay there for the 2 nights before we went to Niagara, and they would just let us have our space. Okay, strange, but it is what it is. And then the host dad worked at the airport. He was an air traffic controller, and so he was supposed to pick Zach up from the airport and bring him home. Well, then all of a sudden, Zach's traveling internationally, which we'll get to his whole process of getting there, being stopped at the border, all of that in 1 second. But he was supposed to pick Zach up, and apparently Zach from traveling doesn't have international service, obviously. And the host dad apparently just changed his mind. Don't really want to pick him up. He's gonna have to figure it out. Tell him to take the train. So Zach's in the air with no international service. When he lands, there's no way for me to communicate with him that, oh, now, by the way, you have to take a train. Mind you, it's like a 2-hour train to where I lived in Canada from Toronto. So I was like, okay, this is just getting weirder and weirder and weirder. So anyways, ended up, the host dad changed his mind. He was willing to bring Zach back. And we'll kind of continue with what happened afterwards, but I'm gonna let Zach share kind of his traveling process, because not only did he almost miss his flight. Where'd you connect? In Charlotte? Do you remember that? Yeah. He almost missed his flight in Charlotte, and then he gets to the border, and feel free to tell your version of that story.
Well, I was told if I got caught at the border, don't say I was coming to see you for some reason. Well,
so the way everything was is I didn't have an official like work visa, because it was kind of being like paid as like babysitting versus au pairing. I wasn't getting paid for like working. I was just in exchange for food and house. So there was just like, we didn't have anything like written, finalized. Like I said, we didn't sign formal contracts. This was all just like verbal, agreed. It was all legal. Like none of this was illegal. It sounds like it was, but it wasn't. But we just didn't have anything like formally written up to where I was like hired. And so because of that, I just told Zach, like, you're just coming to visit a friend. Don't make it like it was a job or anything like that, just because to protect everyone, the host family and myself. So it was just very just like, you know, hey, you're coming to visit a friend, which wasn't a lie, he was. So that was kind of the whole like story that he was going with. And so
well, I get through like customs or whatever, and I'm like, all right, this is fine. I go to a little kiosk and answer the questions, whatever. And I go to scan my passport, and they scan my passport, and they're like, why are you here, or why are you coming? I was like, I'm going to Niagara Falls with a friend, blah, blah. And they're like, Niagara Falls in February, like, who does that, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess us. And then they pulled me aside and like started questioning me, pulled me into the back room, and like holding pretty much. Like took my passport, took my wallet.
Well, and I had booked all of our hotel reservations, and I didn't tell them to him because he was a guy, he didn't need to know. I booked the hotel, I booked everything. So it was just like, I booked everything. He didn't have any of that information. And then they started asking like what hotel he was staying at, and he had to text me and get the address. And like, it just became like one thing after another that like they were just acting, basically they were just trying to find something wrong in the story, which wasn't, nothing was wrong.
And on top of all this, I said I was not bringing tobacco into their country, and I had a can of dip and 2 cigarettes in my pocket. So I was like, please don't search me. That's like a big thing. Like customs.
Well, and he had never, this was the very first time he'd ever traveled internationally, and he was traveling alone. That wasn't like on a cruise ship. Yeah, this was the only time he'd ever like physically flown internationally. Whereas I had traveled all over previously, so like traveling across the border, no issues, like no big deal. And he's very like in a situation, he doesn't think on his feet, he like, oh no. And so when they started,
especially like with like pre-flight rituals and
yeah, and so they started like pushing him, trying to find a flaw in the story. And so while there was no flaws, it was like he was creating them. Like they were pushing him so hard that it made it seem like what he was saying wasn't true, even though it was. Yeah. And so it was like just one thing after another. And then they ended up taking your phone, didn't they? They like had you
went through my whole phone.
Yeah. Like we had been texting and they had him like unlock his cell phone, like.
It also didn't help that I had a huge beard and like super long hair.
Well, and his passport photo is like
my passport photo is this.
With a full beard. If you watch any of my other videos.
My passport photo is just this baby face.
Are you sure? I thought you had a big beard with a bald head.
No, I am this, even without a goatee on my passport. So
but that's what it was. Your passport's like that, but then you showed up in person with your full beard and a head full of hair, so he looked very different.
And my ID has me with a beard and everything. Like my actual driver's license.
Yeah, if you wanted to be a different person, you could. But anyways, it was this huge ordeal over literally nothing. And so then on top of that, he's stressed about how he's even going to get to me because he doesn't know that my host dad's changed his mind and is going to pick him up yet. Because he didn't have his phone.
And I didn't have my only service I had was like splotchy Wi-Fi airport service.
He was connecting to airport Wi-Fi, which if you've ever traveled internationally, you know that airport Wi-Fi sucks.
Every 100 feet you have to like reconnect to something else. So.
And so it was like just this like major shit show. Like it was awful. So anyways, he gets to me after all of that. He rides the 2 hours with my host dad, which was I'm sure. The host dad was actually like my favorite of the two. He was pretty cool. I really don't have any issues with him.
It was only like an hour and 20 minutes in the car with him.
Okay, whatever. Anyways, so that part wasn't bad. So Zach gets there. We had family dinner with just the host mom and dad and me and Zach because obviously the kids were shipped off to grandma's.
Which was weird.
Yeah, it was super awkward. Anyway, so me and Zach were like, okay, we're gonna go to bed. So we go to bed. Wake up the next day and I had plans with a girl that I had actually met while I was living there. And she was Australian, so we connected about from my previous experiences, all of that. She'd been there for 2 years, and she was friends with another girl that was a local. And so I had made plans that night we were gonna go to dinner because the next day we were leaving for Niagara. So we were going to go to dinner, and we like went to the mall during the day, whatever, day was fine. They really weren't home all day, I don't know what they were doing, but they were like in and out, my host parents. So we didn't really connect paths at all that day. And then Zach and I leave to go out to dinner, and I had like told the mom like I'll be back later, this is our plans. No issues. So we're sitting at dinner with my friend that I had met and the local girl who were friends. Anyways, so we're sitting there just having dinner, and I get a text on my phone. Oh no, my phone rings, which I didn't have caller international service, I only had international texting. And so the host mom knew not to call my phone because I would get charged for it. And she's calling me, so like I didn't answer, I was at dinner. And I shot her a text and was like, hey, what's up? I'm at dinner. Thought it was weird she was calling me. And she then sends me back a screenshot of my journal entries that I had written myself that were, again, in my laptop case, in my suitcase, in my closet. And she sent me a picture of them saying, how dare you write these things? How dare you blah, 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 blah. How dare I have my feelings, basically. And so that was a major invasion of privacy, and I started freaking out because all of the money I had made was like put in there, like I was storing everything, all my personal belongings. Like there's just, I knew I was living in her home, but it was my bedroom in her home, and you have to respect that. If someone was staying in our house, I would respect that that is their space. When they're away from their home, their family, their friends, this is their home, and they have that right to privacy. So that whole invasion of privacy really threw me off. Zach and I were freaking out. It was a very uncomfortable situation. And so basically, she then sends me another text that says, your things will be on the front porch when you get here. You need to find somewhere else to stay. And it was what, 8:30 at night? Like we were out just like having a nice dinner, like a late hangout.
Yeah.
So it's super late. And it was like a festival or something was going on that weekend. And so I was like, where am I gonna find a hotel last minute? Like this was ridiculous. And mind you, I had packed for 3 months, so I didn't just have an overnight duffel bag. I had like 2 suitcases. It's February in Canada,
it's like
so
foot and a half of snow.
snow, and I didn't have a car, so we took a bus everywhere or walked.
And it was late, so buses were going on like half schedules. Like,
it was a shit show. So anyways.
You're like losing it, and I've done custom woman out.
No, we're not there yet. So we go back to the house. Basically, I have to rush out of dinner with my friends, knowing I won't ever get to see them again, which was kind of heartbreaking. But anyways, we rush out of dinner, we rush home, we catch the bus, we get home, and I literally walk up to the front door, and I, again, have anxiety, so I'm freaking out, and Zach was trying to keep me calm, like, oh, it was probably an overreaction, she's probably fine. No. We open the door, and there's all of my stuff. She packed it all up, put it at the front door, and basically opened the door and said that I wasn't a Christian because, I don't know. I wasn't a Christian, I wasn't a good person, how dare I do this to their family. Just basically anything absolutely vile you could say to someone, she said to me. To the point that Zach normally is respectable and quiet. He's never going to stand up to authority of any kind with like any form of dominance, even to protect me, which sounds bad, but like he's just a very quiet, mellow person. No.
Unless I absolutely like.
No, that's what I'm saying. But no, this time this lady was so mean and like absolutely vile. She's such a vile human being that Zach went off on her. Like every word you can think of, Zach was like spewing them back at her. He was like defending me to the grave. Like, no, you're not about to say these things about her. She didn't do anything wrong. You invaded her privacy. And then I opened my suitcase to see if my money was in there, and she looked at me and she goes, I didn't steal your money. And I said, well, how would I know what level of respect you have? You went through my stuff. And she basically was just like disgusted that I would say that to her after everything she had said to me. So.
Oh no, and then she had her friend there.
Yeah, she had called her friend because, and I show up and she's crying. She's in like tears, like heartbroken. But I'm a vile human being, so why would you be heartbroken if I'm leaving? Anyways, it was like ridiculous. So her friends back there like defending me. They like have the pieces of paper from my. No, defending her. But they had, they had the pieces of paper that like I had written from my journal. Like they kept them. I still don't have them, so I can't show you them. She kept them. Why? I don't know, but they were like reading them. Like the girl in the background was sitting on the couch and me and the host mom were at the door, and the girl's literally like sitting over here like holding up the piece of paper, like rereading it over and over again. And I'm like, these are my journal entries. Like, I don't care who you are, you don't invade someone's journal entries. Like, this is not okay. So it was ridiculous. So anyways, it's by this point probably 10 or 11 at night. I had managed to find Wi-Fi at the restaurant before we left. I booked a hotel. But the hotel was in downtown, and we lived like probably a 30-minute bus ride from like the downtown area. So we had to walk to the bus stop, which we couldn't go to the normal bus stop because again, buses weren't running this late at night. It was literally 1.5 feet of snow. I'll insert some pictures of us in Canada.
It's still snowing.
And it's still snowing. It was freezing. And we're dragging 2 suitcases, Zach's duffel bag, like so much stuff that we're dragging through snow. It was awful. Anyways, we get to the hotel and we check in. Everything's fine. We take our Greyhound the next day down to Niagara. We go to the falls. Everything's beautiful. We end up having a great time. And then we try to come home. So then we try to come home, and we had an overnight flight. So because we didn't have any plans the next day, or like after Niagara, we were gonna just kill time at the airport all day, stay there overnight, and then catch our flight home the next morning.
A 24-hour stay in an airport, not kill no time.
It wasn't 24 hours. It wasn't 24 hours. We got there at like 4 because we had nothing else to do. We had seen everything. We didn't have anything else in Niagara to do. Move. And so we go to the airport early, and I was like, oh, it's no big deal. I'm from Atlanta. I've traveled all over. It's an international airport. No big deal. We'll just stay at the airport. Our flight leaves at like 5 a.m. We'll just sleep on a bench. No issues. Turns out you can't do that in the Toronto airport. So, we ended up having to...
Well, there was only a certain part of the airport you could be
Well, you couldn't be in, like, the terminals. You had to actually leave the airport and then go back through customs the next morning. And so they...
We've already been through customs, stamped and everything.
Yeah, and we had to leave the airport. The security guard, like, walked us out. They, like, gave us a seat. They set us up. They understood the situation. Like, they were all super nice. It was just super inconvenient after everything we'd already been through.
You couldn't just stay at the gate like you can in Atlanta or something.
Yeah, no, we had to literally like leave and go like come back in the next morning. Like we had to re-go through customs, we had to go back through TSA, all of that. And then finally caught our flight home, and I was flying standby, so we weren't even sure if I was gonna get on my flight, which was a whole nother like this absolute part of this that was just a nightmare. But we got home, everything worked out, and now we have no desire to ever return to Canada ever again.
I want to go to British Columbia.
Yeah, when we lived in Oregon, we wanted to go up to
Vancouver.
BC, but we never did. But everyone says Canadians are like the nicest people ever, and
We just had bad experiences.
I had a really bad experience in Canada.
Everybody else was nice. That lady was just a cunt.
Yeah, that lady she was not nice. So you can definitely, I've experienced both really, really good au pair families and a really, really bad au pair family. So I've seen the best of both worlds. So if you have questions about being an au pair, or if you want to become one and you're curious, I can tell you stories about both awful and both absolutely amazing, awesome, who I still talk to this day 4 years later. So I've experienced both spectrums. But yeah, Canada was a wild ride. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said at the beginning, if you have not, please feel free to subscribe down below and like this video, give it a thumbs up. And again, at the end of this mini series, I'm going to do a Q&A and kind of answer any questions that I get throughout this series. So feel free to leave them down below, send me a message on Instagram. Anything you want to know about being an au pair, let me know and I will answer your questions in that Q&A. So be sure to like this video, give it a big thumbs up, subscribe down below, and I'll see you on Friday with a vlog. And stop! And then I'll see you next Monday with another au pair video. I have a really super exciting one coming up if everything comes in time. Zach's real excited. If everything comes in time, that'll be the next video you see. Otherwise, I will have a new one. So yeah, stay tuned for more. We'll see you in the next video. Bye. Stop.